Chapter 5. The ideal parent doesn't exist, but the pressure does. There's a version of parenting you carry in your mind, an image stitched together over time. Maybe you saw it in your own home growing up. Maybe you pieced it together from parenting books, blogs, or social media feeds. Maybe it came from watching another parent glide through the grocery store, their child, holding their hand, everything looking easy. It's the image of the ideal parent. They're always calm.
They never raise their voice.
They meal prep. They do sensory play. They follow the routines. They know the answers. They have a clean car. And when you fall short of that image, and you will, the voice inside you starts, whispering, "Why can't you be more like them? What's wrong with you? You're failing." This is the quiet, constant shame of chasing an illusion. Seen. The scroll that undoes you. It's late. The house is still. You've just cleaned up the dinner dishes and walked past your child's room, where there. Finally asleep after a rough bedtime. You sit down, phone in hand, and start scrolling, not because you need advice, but because you're trying to feel less alone. But instead of comfort, you find curated moments. A mom kneeling beside her toddler, calmly labeling emotions while sunlight pours through. The window. A dad building a wooden playhouse from scratch on the weekend. A family journaling together about gratitude before bedtime. And in the pit of your stomach, the ache starts again. I'm not doing enough. I'm not like that. I don't belong in this picture. The highly sensitive parent and the comparison loop. If you're highly sensitive, comparison doesn't just sting, it sinks in. You don't just notice what other parents are doing. You internalize it. You wonder if they've figured out something you haven't. You start rewriting your parenting story through their lens, even advice meant to help. Stay calm. Let them cry it out. You just need a better routine. Can feel like personal judgment. Because your sensitivity doesn't just react to the message, it reacts to the tone, the energy behind it. And slowly, subtly, the message becomes, you are not enough as you are. But the ideal parent is a myth. Here's what no one tells you. The perfect parent? The one in the book, or the blog, or the Instagram post? They don't exist. Because parenting isn't a performance, it's a relationship. It's a living, breathing dance between you and a child who is growing, changing, and complex. Real parenting is messy. It's unfinished. It's full of contradictions and choices and moments you don't post about. The ideal you chase is often a highlight reel stitched together from dozens of different lives. One parent's meal routine, another's calm voice, someone else's tidy home. No one does it all, but your nervous system doesn't always know that. So it compares, and criticizes, and collapses under the weight of unrealistic expectations. Seen. The parent at pickup. You're at school pickup. Another parent walks by, smiling, organized, seemingly at ease. Your child is melting down about their jacket. You're tired. There's a stain on your shirt you didn't notice until now, and you start spiraling. She probably doesn't lose it like I do. She probably doesn't cry in the car on bad days. She probably has it all figured out. But here's what you don't see. That same parent may go home and question herself too. She might feel unseen in other ways. She might look at you, the way you kneel when your child cries, the way you speak so gently, and think, I wish I had that. The comparison goes both ways, and it leaves everyone feeling less than. The cost of chasing an ideal. When you chase the ideal parent myth, you disconnect from your own parenting rhythm. You stop trusting your intuition. You second-guess your every choice. You overcorrect, over-research, over-give, and you undervalue the very things that make your parenting yours. This constant pressure pulls you further from your strength and closer to burnout. Because parenting from a place of proving is exhausting. Parenting from a place of presence is where the real power is. In the next section, we'll explore how to reclaim that power, how to stop performing, and start parenting from your unique rhythm. We'll look at how sensitivity needs a different pace, and why honoring your own tempo is the most loving choice you can make, reclaiming your rhythm as a sensitive parent. You weren't made for hustle parenting. You weren't made for schedules that don't breathe, voices that don't pause, or homes that never soften. As a highly sensitive parent, you were made for rhythm, for slow, present moments, for deep connection over constant performance, for flow, not force. But here's the hard part. The world doesn't honor that rhythm, so you start speeding up. You try to keep up with others who don't feel what you feel. You start to believe that the only way to be a good parent is to match their pace. And every time you try, you lose yourself a little more. Scene: the fast-moving day. It's 7:30 a.m. You've already spilled coffee, packed lunches, reminded your child 3 times to put on socks, and answered 2 work emails. You're rushing, not because you want to, but because everyone else is. You get them in the car, buckle them in, and feel your breath trapped in your chest. Everything feels fast, loud, and slightly out of control. You don't remember what they said this morning. You weren't really present. You were surviving, and later when it's quiet, the guilt settles in, because you missed them, even though they were right in front of you. You don't need to be efficient. You need to be aligned. Efficiency is not your goal. Presence is, connection is, clarity is. And that requires a different pace. You may not be the fastest or the most organized, but you are tuned in. And when you slow down enough to access that attunement, magic happens. You notice what others miss. You respond before things spiral. You create space where your child feels safe to just be. That doesn't happen in rush. It happens in rhythm. Scene: a different kind of morning. You wake up just 15 minutes earlier. You light a candle. No screens, no rush. Your child stumbles in, still sleepy. You sit on the couch together. No agenda, just a quiet cuddle. No lectures, no rushing, just warmth. Later, when they put on their socks, you realize you didn't even have to remind them. They felt calm, and when they're calm, things flow. This is the rhythm your nervous system knows how to create, not through control, but through slowness, safety, and sensitivity. The world doesn't reward slowness, but your child feels the difference. In a fast world, slow parenting is radical, and sometimes lonely. You won't get applause for leaving a loud party early, or for stepping outside with your child during a meltdown instead of powering through. You won't be praised for walking away from schedules that overstimulate, routines that exhaust, or discipline strategies that shut your child down. But your child? They feel it. They feel the difference when you slow the world down enough for their nervous system, and yours, to catch up. And that feeling becomes trust. You're allowed to parent differently. Let this be your permission slip. You don't need a packed schedule to be a good parent. You don't need to attend every event. You don't need to socialize more than your capacity allows. You don't need to prove anything by pushing through overwhelm. You're allowed to say, "This doesn't work for us." You're allowed to cancel, to pivot, to rest. You're allowed to build your family's rhythm around sensitivity, not in spite of it. And when you do, your home starts to reflect who you really are. In the next part, we'll explore what it looks like to fully step into your parenting style, not quietly or apologetically, but with confidence. Because your way isn't just valid, it's valuable. Parenting without apology, owning your enoughness. At some point, you have to stop apologizing for the way you parent. Not just out loud, but internally, in the way you explain yourself to others, in the way you second-guess your instincts, in the way you carry invisible guilt, even when you're doing your best. Because here's the truth you've been avoiding. You're already enough. Not enough as in barely scraping by, but enough as in whole, present, valuable, exactly as you are. You don't need to become someone else's version of calm. You don't need to raise your child the way your neighbor, your parent, or your favorite author does. You were not chosen to parent them. You were chosen to parent this child in your own skin, your own rhythm, your own sensitivity. And that's not just acceptable, it's sacred. Scene, the unapologetic number. A friend invites you to a playgroup. You've tried before. It was loud, overstimulating. Your child got overwhelmed. You left feeling depleted, disconnected from yourself. So this time, you say, "Thanks, not today. We're going to have a slow morning at home." There's a pause, maybe some surprise, but inside, for the first time, you feel solid. No guilt, no over-explaining, just alignment. That no isn't about rejection. It's about protection of your energy, your child's needs, your peace. And in that moment, you reclaim something important. Your right to parent on your terms. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. Your child doesn't need a flawless parent. They need a parent who returns, who comes back after they snap, who apologizes with softness, who keeps showing up again and again with open eyes and an open heart. Perfection is brittle. Presence is flexible, forgiving, and real. When you let go of performing, you start to connect. When you release comparison, you start to trust. When you stop apologizing for your natural style, you start to thrive. That shift, it changes everything, for both you and your child. Scene, a defining moment. You're in a parenting class. The facilitator says something that doesn't sit right. Others nod. You hesitate. You know that for your child, with their sensitivity, their temperament, their inner world, that advice would shut them down. You raise your hand and say, gently, "That might not work for every child. I've found that with mine, what works best is slowing down and connecting first." The room is quiet. Then a few others nod. You spoke your truth, not to challenge but to honor what you know. And in doing so, you gave someone else permission to do the same. This is what it looks like to lead quietly. You don't need a stage, you don't need a blog or a brand. You lead by how you listen, how you choose presence over perfection, how you offer repair over punishment, how you build safety in the small moments. You model a different way, not just for your child, but for the world around you. Because parenting from sensitivity isn't just an act of survival, it's an act of quiet courage. You are allowed to take up space. Let that settle for a moment. You are allowed to exist as you are. You are allowed to be a sensitive parent without defending it. You are allowed to be tired, to need breaks, to say no, to create a slower life. You don't have to be the loudest to be strong. You don't have to do the most to be worthy. You are doing something brave, raising a child while healing yourself, leading with softness in a world that praises hardness, showing up every day, even when your nervous system is stretched thin. And if that's not enough, nothing ever will be. But it is. It always has been. In the next segment, we'll move into practical ways to create space for your rhythm, from boundary setting to energy protection, so that your sensitivity doesn't get drained, but honored, because awareness is the first step, but structure is what sustains it. Parents? If you're a highly sensitive parent, you likely give deeply. You give your time, your presence, your attention, your energy, and you give all of this even when your own tank is running low. Because the idea of disappointing someone, especially your child, feels unbearable. But here's the quiet truth. Without boundaries, your gifts become your burden. Empathy turns into emotional exhaustion. Availability turns into resentment. Presence turns into depletion. Boundaries are not walls between you and your child. They're the structure that lets you keep showing up with love without burning out. Scene, the always-on parent. It's 5:40 p.m. You've been touched, talked to, and needed all day. Your child is asking for one more game, one more snack, one more story. Your partner walks in asking what's for dinner. Your phone buzzes, a reminder about a school project. You feel it, the rising tightness, the edge of irritation, but you say yes, again. Because saying no feels like failing. Because you don't want to be cold. Because you think that loving well means never stepping away. But inside, you're screaming for space. Why HSPs struggle to set limits. Highly sensitive parents often resist boundaries for a few key reasons. You feel responsible for other people's comfort. Saying no feels like causing harm. You sense every shift in mood. Disappointment, frustration, or withdrawal from. Your child feels louder than it might to others. You equate rest with selfishness. The idea of taking time for yourself feels like you're abandoning your role. You fear being misunderstood. Boundaries often feel like rejection to your child and to yourself. But here's what's true. A boundary isn't a rejection of your child. It's a protection of your ability to love them well. What healthy boundaries sound like. I'm happy to help after I've had 5 minutes to myself. I love you, and I need a break from talking for a little while. It's okay to be upset that I said no, and it's still no. I won't yell, but I will walk away if I feel myself getting too frustrated. I can't do that right now, but I will tomorrow. These aren't punishments. They're instructions for connection, with space. And children learn from this. They learn that love doesn't mean self-erasure. They learn that emotions are safe, even when they include disappointment. They learn that needs can coexist, theirs and yours. Seen, a boundary in action. Your child wants you to play, again. It's been hours. You're overstimulated, touched out, frayed. You kneel down, look them in the eye, and say, I really want to be with you. But right now, I feel too tired. I'm going to rest for 10 minutes. After that, we can read a book together. They pout, they protest. You stay calm, and here's what happens. You rest, you return. You're present, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. Your boundary made space for your return, and that return is where connection grows. In the next section, we'll explore how to build and protect your energy reserves so that you're not running on empty and so that your sensitivity can work for you, not against you. Building energy reserves for the long haul. Being a highly sensitive parent is like parenting with an open window. Everything comes in, the light, the breeze, the noise, the storm. It means you're responsive, attuned, emotionally present. But it also means you lose energy fast. Not because you're weak, but because your system runs deeper. To thrive, you don't just need quiet moments. You need intentional recovery. You need to build energy reserves, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And that means learning what drains you and what restores you. Scene: the unexpected crash. It's 2 p.m. on a Saturday. Nothing dramatic has happened. Your child played, ate lunch, watched a show. You've kept the day moving, but suddenly you feel it. Exhaustion, irritation, that glassy-eyed sense of, I can't do this anymore today. You feel guilty. Nothing hard even happened. But your system tells a different story. You've been holding space, translating feelings, managing sensory input, tone, and emotional temperature. And now, you're empty. Not because you did something wrong, but because you didn't refill your tank. The 4 types of rest HSP parents need. First, sensory rest. Silence, soft lighting, weighted blankets, time without screens or stimulation. Second, emotional rest. Time with people who don't need anything from you. Moments where you're not holding space for anyone else's feelings. Third, mental rest. Breaks from decision-making, gentle distractions like puzzles, gardening, or meditative walks. Fourth, creative rest. Beauty, article, nature, music. Not for productivity, but for nourishment. You might not get a full hour, but even 10 minutes of the right kind of rest can reset your system. Mini restorative practices that fit into real life. Sit in the car for 2 minutes before going back inside. Lay on the floor and do nothing while your child plays nearby. Set a timer and close your eyes. Let your thoughts wander. Step outside barefoot and breathe deeply for 5 slow inhales. Listen to a piece of music with your full attention, not while multitasking. Place one hand on your chest, one on your belly, and repeat, "I'm allowed to rest." These are not luxuries. They're maintenance. They create space in your system before the meltdown comes, yours or your child's. Scene: the 3-minute reset. It's been a long afternoon. You're close to snapping. Your child wants attention. The house feels too loud. Instead of pushing through, you say, "Okay, I'm taking 3 minutes for my body." You sit on the couch. Close your eyes, feel your feet. Breathe in for 4, out for 6. Your child watches, curious, then imitates you. They sit beside you. They breathe too. You didn't teach them a coping skill with words. You modeled it with action. That's parenting through regulation, not by sacrificing it. Replenishment is part of responsibility. There is no honor in martyrdom. There is no prize for the most depleted parent. There is only relationship. And for the relationship to thrive, you must be nourished too. Your nervous system needs consistency, not just recovery. It needs practices that protect your peace, not patch it together in panic. You don't have to earn your rest. You require it. Because when you are rested, even just a little, your sensitivity becomes a gift again. Your intuition sharpens, your empathy flows, your patience deepens. You stop bracing for impact and begin living your role as a parent with clarity, protecting your peace with external boundaries. You've been doing the internal work. You're learning to rest, to notice your limits, to listen when your nervous system says, "Enough." But what about when the pressure comes from the outside, from the in-laws who drop in unannounced? The friend who shames your gentle approach, the teacher who questions your parenting style, the family member who says, "You're being too sensitive again." This is where your boundaries meet the world. And this is where things can get hard, because HSP parents feel not just their own discomfort, but everyone else's too. But here's what's true. Every yes you give to please others is a no to your peace, and you are allowed to choose peace. Scene: the uninvited visit. It's Sunday afternoon. You've finally created a quiet moment. Your child is calm. You're halfway into a cup of tea. Then, a knock on the door. Your relative smiles, stepping in with loud energy and strong opinions. You try to mask the internal jolt, the sensory spike, the subtle panic. They mean well, but your space is now gone. You feel yourself slipping into a performance, cheerful, accommodating, agreeable. Inside, you're shrinking. Later that night, you feel drained and resentful, but it doesn't have to end this way. Boundaries are not about control. They're about clarity. Setting external boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about clearly stating what you can and cannot hold. It's saying, "We're not available for drop-ins. Please text first." We're trying a quieter holiday this year. Just our little family. We're parenting a bit differently, and that's okay. I don't have the energy for this conversation right now. Thanks for the advice. We're choosing a different path. At first, it might feel cold, harsh, even selfish, but that's just your sensitivity interpreting other people's discomfort as your responsibility. And it's not the truth about disappointing others. Here's a hard truth, wrapped in kindness. If you're never disappointing others, you are likely always disappointing yourself. HSP parents tend to bend, soften, accommodate, not because they're weak, but because. They care deeply about how others feel, but there's a cost. When you say yes to keep the peace out there, you often stir up conflict within, and your child feels that. They feel when you're overwhelmed but saying yes anyway. They feel when you're smiling but disconnected. Teaching them healthy boundaries starts with modeling it, even when it's awkward, especially when it's hard. Seen, the family gathering you declined. It's a holiday weekend. Everyone expects you to attend. Loud house, lots of people, long hours. But this year, you pause. You feel your child's needs, your own limits. You talk it through with your partner, and you say, "We love you, but we'll be staying home this year." There's confusion, maybe some disappointment. But you feel something else too. Relief. You make pancakes, wear pajamas, go for a walk, laugh, breathe. Your child looks up and says, "I like this kind of holiday." And something inside you heals. You didn't just make a choice. You modeled a new way to live. What you protect grows. When you create outer boundaries, you create inner space. Space for calm, for attunement, for rest, for joy. Boundaries are not barriers to connection. They are the container within which real connection can flourish. You don't need to justify your limits. You need to trust them. And you don't need to explain your sensitivity to everyone. You need to honor it enough not to let it be overrun. In the next segment, we'll move into one of the most vital practices for HSP parents: repair. And regulation. How to come back after a rupture, calm your body after a storm, and lead your child through emotional recovery without shame. Because even when you have boundaries, you'll still have hard moments. But those moments don't define you. How you come back does. Chapter 7. You lost it. Now what? The power of repair. You promised yourself it wouldn't happen again. You were going to stay calm this time. You were going to breathe through it. You were going to remember everything you've learned. But then, the shoes weren't on. The whining wouldn't stop. The noise got too loud. And suddenly, there it was. The outburst, the sharp tone, the slammed cupboard, the moment your child's face changed. And now, hours later, you're sitting with the aftermath, the guilt, the heaviness, the replay in your mind that won't stop, and beneath it all, the fear. Did I just damage something I can't fix? Scene. After the storm. You're sitting at the kitchen table. The house is quiet, but your body isn't. Your thoughts are racing, your chest is tight, your stomach aches with regret. You think about the look on your child's face when you yelled. You think about how you said you'd never become this kind of parent. You wonder if you're failing them. Again. But here's what you haven't been told enough. It's not the rupture that breaks a relationship, it's the absence of repair. What repair really means. Repair is not perfection. It's not a flawless response every time. It's not about never yelling, never stumbling, never falling short. Repair means you return. You come back to your child after the storm. You acknowledge what happened. You take responsibility. You reconnect. That might sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful things you can do as a parent, especially as a highly sensitive one. Because your child doesn't need you to be perfect. They need to know the bond is stronger than the breakdown. Why repair is powerful for HSP parents. Highly sensitive parents often get stuck in the shame loop after an outburst. You feel everything so deeply that your regret becomes paralyzing. You might think, I shouldn't even need to repair if I were a better parent. They'll never forget the way I spoke to them. I'm messing them up. This shame can actually stop you from repairing, but repair doesn't require you to feel perfect. It only requires presence. You can still be processing your feelings and show up. You can still be unsure of the perfect words and say something real. You can still be hurting and choose to reconnect. What repair sounds like. You don't need a speech, you need sincerity. Repair sounds like, I raised my voice earlier. That wasn't okay. I'm really sorry. I was overwhelmed and I didn't handle it well. You didn't deserve that. I'm still learning how to stay calm when I'm frustrated. I love you, always. These words don't erase the moment, but they do reframe it. They say, emotions are not dangerous. Mistakes don't mean the end of love. Adults take responsibility for their actions, and that message builds emotional safety, not just for now, but for years to come. Scene, the quiet reconnection. It's bedtime. You've read the story, tuck them in. But you pause before turning out the light. You sit on the edge of the bed and say, I wasn't very kind this morning. I wish I had handled things differently. I'm sorry. They're quiet. Then they say, I was scared when you yelled. You nod. Yeah, I get scared when people yell too. Thank you for telling me. You rub their back. You sit in the silence. You let the moment breathe. That's repair. It's not dramatic. It's not performative. It's just truth spoken gently, with presence. You are not failing. You're growing. You will lose it again. You will fall short again. You are human, and parenting will press every raw nerve in your body. But every time you choose to repair, you're showing your child something sacred. That love is stronger than anger. That safety can be restored. That people who hurt you can also own it and grow. You are teaching emotional resilience, not by being flawless, but by being real. That's not failure. That's leadership. In the next section, we'll move from repair into regulation. What to do when your body is still activated and how to bring yourself back to center so you can reconnect with calm, not pressure. Calming your system after the storm. You apologized, you reconnected, you did the repair, but your body still isn't calm. Your mind is looping, your chest is tight. Your jaw is clenched, you're smiling at your child, but inside you feel like you're barely holding it together. This is what many parents, especially highly sensitive ones, don't realize. Repair is emotional, but regulation is physiological. To truly return to yourself and to your child, you need more than words. You need to bring your nervous system back from alert to grounded. Why you can't just calm down. Your nervous system isn't driven by logic. It's not soothed by someone telling you to relax. It doesn't care that the moment is over. If your body doesn't feel safe, it will stay on alert long after the conflict ends. As an HSP, you likely have a more finely tuned stress response. You enter fight or flight faster. You stay there longer, and your system picks up on tension and threat, even in subtle forms, a child's scream, a slammed toy, a harsh light. That means coming down from a storm takes longer for you, and that's okay, as long as you make space for that process. Scene, the lingering surge. It's after bedtime. The house is finally quiet. Your child is asleep. The lights are low. Everything looks calm, but you're still buzzing inside. You try to scroll your phone. You try to watch a show, but your thoughts keep returning to the moment you yelled. The look on their face, the knot in your stomach. You want to rest, but your body won't let you. This is what happens when you skip regulation. What regulation actually is. Regulation is your body's process of shifting from survival mode to safety. It doesn't happen instantly. It happens through patterned sensory-based cues that tell your brain, you're safe now. You can release. Here's what that can look like. Breath work. Slow exhales tell the vagus nerve to down-regulate stress. Grounding. Noticing the contact between your feet and the floor. Movement. Walking, stretching, shaking, or swaying. Touch. Placing a hand over your heart or hugging yourself. Sound. Humming soft music, or even verbal sighs. These tools don't just feel good, they tell your body, you're not in danger anymore. Scene, the bathroom reset. You step into the bathroom, close the door, sit on the closed toilet seat. Eyes closed. You take a breath in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale slowly for 6. You do it again, and again. Then you gently shake your arms out. You roll your neck side to side. You place your hands on your chest. You whisper, I'm safe now. I came back. I'm still a good parent. You feel a small shift, not total calm, but a loosening. This is regulation, and it only took 5 minutes. Regulation is a form of repair, too. Here's something powerful. When you regulate yourself, you create an energetic invitation for your child to do the same. Children are deeply co-regulated. They feel your stress, even if you don't say a word. But they also feel your calm, the kind that comes not from forcing it, but from actually finding it. When you model how to calm down, not with shame, but with self-compassion, you teach them. Emotions are manageable. Big feelings can move through the body. Calming down isn't pretending you're okay. It's helping yourself get there. This is legacy parenting. This is embodied parenting. This is sensitive strength. Your calm is not perfection. It's permission. You don't have to always stay calm. You just have to keep returning to it. To make space for the pause. To listen to your body, not just your brain. To stop chasing logic and start offering comfort. To yourself. Your body is not betraying you. It's speaking to you, and when you learn its language, you gain access to a deeper, quieter kind of control. Grounded presence. In the next and final part of this segment, we'll talk about how to bring your child into this process, not by fixing their feelings, but by guiding them toward emotional regulation, through safety, modeling, and soft repair. Teaching your child emotional recovery. Your child is crying, or yelling, or throwing, or frozen. And you feel the pull, the urge to fix it, stop it, smooth it over. But what if your role isn't to control the storm, but to teach them how to move through it? As a highly sensitive parent, your emotional depth is your advantage. You understand what it feels like to be flooded, to feel too much, too fast. And that gives you a powerful opportunity to teach your child how to recover without fear, without shame, and without shutting down. Scene. The tantrum and the aftermath. Your child had a full meltdown, kicking, screaming, tears. You were there for it, breathing, holding, staying close. Now it's quiet. They're curled on the couch, red-faced and tired. You sit beside them. You don't lecture, you don't analyze. You simply say, "Big feelings are hard. You got through it. I'm proud of you." They nod. You offer a hand. They take it. You're back in sync. No punishment, no shame, just a return. This is what emotional recovery looks like, and it starts with you. Your child doesn't need to get over it. They need to feel safe. In many households, recovery sounds like, "Calm down. Stop crying. Go to your room until you can behave. You're too sensitive." But in a sensitive household, recovery sounds different. It sounds like, "You were really upset. I stayed with you. Your body was having a big reaction. That's okay. Let's sit here until we feel ready. I'm not mad. I'm here." This kind of language doesn't just soothe, it teaches emotional literacy. Your child learns to name their state, to trust that their emotions don't make them bad, to believe that no feeling makes them unlovable. That is emotional safety, and emotional safety becomes resilience. Modeling regulated repair. What happens after the meltdown matters as much as how you handle it in the moment. When you speak gently, stay grounded, name your own emotions calmly, invite reconnection without blame, you're showing your child how to do the same. It might sound like, "I was feeling frustrated, but I took a break and came back. I had a big emotion too. I'm glad we worked through it. You weren't bad. You were overwhelmed. We can handle big feelings together." Even if they don't respond right away, they're absorbing this. They are watching you regulate out loud. And that creates a roadmap they'll return to again and again. Scene. The quiet walk. After a long, emotionally charged day, you suggest a walk. Your child is quiet at first, still processing, still raw. You walk slowly beside them, say nothing for a while, Let nature hold the silence. Then you say, "That was a hard day. You felt so much." They nod. You add, "But we're okay. We got through it, and I'm proud of how we came back to each other." You don't force a reply. You just let it land. And in that moment, without fixing a thing, you've taught them everything. Recovery is the gift you were meant to teach. Sensitive parents don't just love deeply. They repair deeply. They reconnect with intention. They model what it means to be real and still remain safe. This kind of parenting doesn't make you perfect. It makes you trustworthy, because your child learns, my emotions don't scare my parent. I can mess up and still be loved. I can feel big things and still come back to peace. This is emotional intelligence in action. Not through lectures, but through the lived example of your calm, your returns, your willingness to show up even after hard moments. You're raising someone who will know how to come back. One day, your child will face their own storm. They'll say something they regret. They'll feel overwhelmed by a situation. They'll lose their temper or their focus or their grace. And because of you, they'll know how to return. They'll know how to pause, breathe, speak from the heart. They'll know that regulation is possible because they've seen it. They won't be perfect, but they'll be equipped, and you gave them that. In the next segment, we'll explore the big picture, the legacy you're creating, and how. Parenting this way not only transforms your child, but starts to heal the story you were given to. Chapter 8, Legacy Parenting, What You Pass On. You may not see it in the moment, in the middle of spilled milk, sibling fights, or bedtime tears. You may wonder if anything you're doing is really working. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. You are changing the story. Every time you pause instead of punish. Every time you repair instead of withdraw. Every time you choose softness over control. You are writing a new chapter, not just for your child, but for every generation that follows. This is legacy parenting, not the kind built on rules or rigidity, but the kind built on healing. Seen, the choice you make. Your child is sobbing. They've made a mistake, broke something important, and now they're curled up in shame. You kneel beside them, not to scold, but to stay close. You say, making mistakes doesn't make you bad. You're allowed to feel upset, and I'm still right. Here. They don't respond at first, but their body shifts, their breathing slows. Because deep down, something old is being rewritten. Mistakes don't mean exile. Sadness doesn't mean isolation. Love doesn't disappear when things get messy. This is the healing your child will carry with them, even when they're grown. You're not just raising a child. You're repairing a line. Many HSP parents were raised in environments that didn't honor emotion. You were told to stop crying, to be good, to be quiet, to be less sensitive. And so you learned to perform, to suppress, to please. Now you're raising a child, and suddenly you're confronted with feelings that were never safe for you. But instead of repeating the pattern, you're doing something radical. You're pausing, you're softening, you're listening to feelings you were once told to ignore. That is not small. That is ancestral work, the emotional inheritance you're shaping. Every family passes down more than genetics. We pass down emotional codes, messages like, love is conditional. Big feelings make people leave. You're too much. You need to earn closeness. But you are interrupting those codes. You are replacing them with new ones. Your feelings are welcome. You're safe, even when you're upset. Love isn't something you have to earn. It's already yours. I'll come back, no matter what. These are the messages your child will one day whisper to themselves when they feel overwhelmed. These are the truths they'll pass on to their own children, not because they memorized them, but because they lived them. Seen, generational echoes. Years from now, your child may hold a child of their own. That child might cry, might push, might fall apart, and your child will sit down and breathe and say, "I'm here, I've got you." And in that moment, a voice will echo in their memory. Your voice, your presence, your tone, your way of staying. This is how legacy lives on, not through perfection, but through practice. You are not alone in this work. Some days it will feel like too much, like you're holding the emotional weight of 2 generations, your child's feelings and your own unhealed ones. But you are not the first to carry pain. You may be the first to transform it, and that doesn't make you fragile. It makes you strong in the quietest, most essential way. Because healing doesn't always look like a grand gesture. Sometimes it looks like holding eye contact when your child is crying, or naming your own feelings without shame, or sitting beside them without trying to fix anything. These are not small acts. They're revolutionary ones. You are the turning point. You may never get an award for this work. No ceremony, no applause, but your child will feel it in their bones. They'll know what safety feels like. They'll grow up with a map for their emotions. They'll know how to love with softness and strength, and that will reach far beyond your home. Because the healing you do now becomes the foundation they build their life on. You're not just parenting, you're building a bridge. Chapter 9. Becoming your own safe place. You've spent so much time trying to create safety for your child. You've softened your voice, held space for their storms, learned new tools, broken old cycles. You've shown up again and again, even when your own heart felt like it was breaking. But there's one place you may have forgotten to offer that same gentleness: yourself. What would it look like to become the safe place you've been creating for everyone else? To give yourself the grace you give your child? To offer your own nervous system the calm you so lovingly build for theirs? To stop waiting for the world to understand your sensitivity and start honoring it from the inside out? This is the next step. This is the quiet return home. Seen, the inner critic. You're lying in bed after a long day. You're thinking about that moment you snapped, that time you forgot something important, that way you looked away when your child was trying to talk to you. Your thoughts are sharp. You feel tight, ashamed, and then you hear it. The voice. You're too much. You're never going to get this right. You don't deserve rest. That voice doesn't belong to you. It was planted, passed down, picked up over time, but you've been carrying it as truth. It's time to let it go. You are not a project to be fixed. As a highly sensitive person, you've likely spent a lifetime trying to be less reactive, less emotional, less intense. You've worked hard to keep it together, to not overthink, to not take things so personally, to not need so much. But all this effort hasn't brought you peace, just pressure. Because the real healing doesn't come from making yourself smaller. It comes from making space. Space to feel, space to rest, space to honor the way you were built, deeply, beautifully, differently. Being a safe place means changing your inner voice. Imagine the way you speak to your child when they've had a hard day. You lower your voice, you soften your eyes. You say things like, "It's okay to be upset. You don't have to be perfect. I'm proud of you for trying. You're still good. You're still loved." Now imagine saying that to yourself when you forget something, when you cry, when you hit your edge. Because you deserve that same voice, especially from within. You don't need more pressure. You need more presence. Seen, the morning reframe. It's early. You didn't sleep well. You already feel behind. Your child needs you, but your body is heavy. Your thoughts are racing. Instead of spiraling, you pause. You place your hand over your heart, and you say softly, "I'm tired. I'm doing my best. I'm allowed to move slowly today." You breathe. It doesn't fix everything, but something inside you shifts. You're not fighting yourself. You're with yourself. That's what it means to be your own safe place. Daily practices for inner safety. These small rituals can help anchor you in gentleness, self-touch, Place your hand over your heart or on your belly during hard moments. Physical reassurance helps regulate the nervous system. Compassionate self-talk. Write down phrases you'd say to your child and say them. To yourself during tough times. Time cushions. Build intentional buffer time into transitions. Highly sensitive nervous. Systems need decompression. Micro-honesty. When you're overwhelmed, speak it aloud, even to yourself. I'm at my limit. This is a lot. Naming it reduces shame. Environment shaping. Curate your space, even one corner of your home, to reflect peace, softness, and light. You don't need hours. You need permission. You are not weak. You are woven differently. Being a safe place to yourself doesn't mean you never get overwhelmed. It means you stop abandoning yourself when you do. It means when the world feels loud, you come home to quiet. When you've given too much, you give back to yourself. When old voices rise, you replace them with your own, steady, clear, and kind. This is not indulgent, it's responsible. Because the more rooted you are, the more rooted your child becomes too. In the next and final segment, we'll bring everything together with reflection, a gentle closing, and a reminder of the strength you carry within. Chapter 10. The Quiet Power Within You. You've come far, not just through this audiobook, but through years of quiet, invisible work. The late nights spent holding tears, your child's and your own. The choices no one saw when you stayed instead of snapped. The days when you doubted everything, but showed up anyway. This isn't a story of perfection. It's a story of presence. A story of a parent who feels deeply, who cares more than they can explain, who is learning, one moment at a time, how to lead with softness and stay. And that story deserves to be honored. Scene. Looking back to see clearly. Imagine stepping outside yourself. You see a parent kneeling beside a child after a tantrum, a hand on their back, a steady voice, a tear held in the corner of an eye. You see the earlier version of this parent, unsure, overwhelmed, scared they were getting it all wrong. You see the growth, you see the healing. You see someone who no longer tries to parent around their sensitivity, but with it. You see yourself, and in that moment you realize this was never a weakness. It was your gift all along. The power you carry is not loud. You may never be the parent with the color-coded calendar, the perfect routines, or the Pinterest-worthy home. But your power lives elsewhere. It lives in the way your child leans into your lap without needing to speak. The way you sense hurt before it's spoken. The way you apologize and repair, not because you're flawed, but because you're growing. The way you stay emotionally available even when you feel stretched. This is real strength. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that holds. You don't need to become a new parent. You need to trust the one you already are. This journey is not about changing who you are. It's about finally seeing who you've been all along. You are not fragile. You are not dramatic. You are not too much. You are attuned. You are present. You are courageous in ways the world doesn't always name. You are doing sacred work, raising a child while learning to hold yourself. That work is quiet, but it's changing everything. Scene. The future echo. One day, your child will face a hard moment. They'll make a mistake. They'll feel overwhelmed. They'll want to run, shut down, or lash out. And in that moment, they will pause. Not because life taught them that, but because you did. Because you gave them the experience of repair. Because you showed them how to come back from big emotions. Because you modeled softness in a world that often demands hardness. That moment, their pause, their breath, their return, is your legacy. Let this be your reflection and your reminder. You were never meant to parent like the world around you. You were meant to parent like you. Slow, sensitive, present, powerful. So take this with you. You can pause and begin again at any moment. You can trust your instincts. They're built from truth. You can rest, not because you've earned it, but because you need it. You can lead your child not with control, but with compassion. You are allowed to feel deeply, to move slowly, to step back and return. That's what makes you the parent your child needs, and that's what makes you enough. Always reflect, revisit, rise. Pause for a moment. Feel the quiet now resting in your body. Feel the weight of all you've carried and the strength it took to carry it. Let that be enough, and then, when you're ready, come back to this. Come back to the chapter that softened your shame, the scene that made you feel seen, the reminder that made your shoulders drop. This isn't a story you finish. It's one you live into, over time, with practice, with presence. So reflect. What moment made you feel understood? What truth did you almost miss, but needed to hear? What is one small way you can protect your sensitivity today, instead of hiding it? You don't have to do it all. You don't have to rush. You just have to begin. Today, maybe that means resting. Maybe that means speaking more gently to your child or to yourself. Maybe it means saying, I'm allowed to do this differently. That is the work. That is the way forward. This has been The Secret Strength of Highly Sensitive Parents. Listen again. Reflect deeply. Parent differently. The strength has always been there.